So, Dinner to Die For. This is the new film from Diana Mills Smith. She co-wrote it with Cameron Scott and Orr Koren. The film is produced by Cameron Scott along with Kagiso Rabada, Orr Koren, and Adia Dejag. Executive produced by Ayanda Gwala, Orr Koren, Ryan Levy, Asghar Mohammed, Abra Perry, Kagiso Rabada. We've also got line production from Adia Dejagar. Yeah, that's that. The score was done by John G. Kay and W.F. Smith Lifeheart. We have Edun Kitchen on cinematography. Amy LaRouf edits the piece. Waldemar Cotes is production design. Art direction, we have Lorenz van der Weizsäcker. Hair and makeup, we have Masigo Marti. Angelique Stander. Taking care is Daryl Cortez, Nick Grigg, and Maleficent Magoro. Okay, so film. All right, as Hannah, we have Shamilla Miller. Her friend Evan is played by Stephen John Ward. Her new neighbor Blair is Nina Erasmus. We've got Hannah's boss, Brent, played by Brendan Sean Murray. Reporter, played by Sia Mayola. Dead Susan is played by Soraya Rose Santos. The Forest Killer 1, played by Hein de Veers. Forest Killer 2, Tony Jean Erasmus. We got the podcast woman played by Amy LaRiff. Norman Trent is Hannah's guest 1. Second guest is Shaquille Rabada. Her third guest is Adia Dejagar. Her fourth guest is Samantha Marasis. And Indiana Jones Jr. is also in the spot. All right, so the is this, right? So Hannah, a culinary photographer, and her friend Evan share a passion for true crime. Suggests role-playing their own true crime scenario involving a killer meal and the girl next door. Things take a twisted turn. Dum dum dum. So yes, people, that is our movie. Right? It's just 74 minutes, right? So it's a short one. And I think there's some bonus to that, but then there's also problems with it as well. Now, this is the feature directorial debut for Diana, and what I mean with the length of the film is, right, there's the plot wise is it could be interesting, you know what I mean, right? Because so many people are into this true crime stuff. It's bananas, right? It's funny how women love it as well. You know what I mean? Serial killers and all of that shit. It's an interesting one. So it's not a bad plot, but I think we don't really get any of the characters fully established, right? It says they're good friends, but the minute we meet Evan, it is not even subtly clear that he wants to fuck Hannah, right? It is mad forceful, right? And I think for this to really work, it needs to be like these subtle glances, right? When she's not looking, maybe that hand on the arm a little bit too long. You know what I mean? Just little tiny things that you're not instantly like, oh, he wants her, right? Or he likes her, right? It needs to be really subtle, but here it is very much not so, right? Stevie Wonder can see what the fuck is going on, right? And I think that's a big issue. Because it's so forceful, you kind of go, wait, why would she even be hanging with him? You know what I mean? Because it gets to a point where it's kind of like verging on, like, I don't know, meanness. Like, either you do it or it's kind of either you fuck me or I won't come over again kind of thing. That's kind of basically what he says at one point, right? So that makes it really weird. I think also when she's talking to her boss about this new project and she wants to do the cookbook and all of this kind of thing, I feel that right, and the fact that he's like, oh, we need more, and she's just like, oh, I've been thinking about this for ages, but we don't get. So what's your USP here, right? What is the thing that you believe makes this? Because I think you would say that in a conversation when he's just like, well, he'd be like, look, how many other cookbooks do this? Right? You would say something, but nothing gets said whatsoever. So it's just like these things, these ideas get kind of thrown out, but they aren't fleshed out, right? There is enough to them. And then the neighbor, right, when she comes into the scene, it is super weird from jump, right? And you're kind of like, it's one of those ones where they're like, oh, two people like each other, but it feels like it's out of the blue, right? That there's no real build to that point, right? There's no, oh, why would you like this person? You know what I mean? There isn't that. And you need that for some of the, like, there's certain parts of the film where you're just like, okay, so why'd you go in this direction, right? You need to know certain things. You need to build those things for your audience to be like, oh, yes, that's why, right? I can see that right there. So yeah, that is one of the odd things with this story, one of the frustrations, why I just feel maybe if it was a bit longer, right, there would be space to give that depth. I think some of the filming techniques, right, we have some of the, there was this one scene where you get this suddenly this close up on a hand and it's changing the scope of the camera, and it's a really nice shot. So we do get these really nice little shots within and these moments which make you feel, okay, I feel that, you know what I mean? There is definitely something with, you know, the storytelling, right? I think Diana Mills Smith has something here, but it's just kind of, it gets lost. A few moments in the film where Hannah takes a shower, And we're just a bit like, why are we on the shower? Right? You know what I mean? It's one of those odd ones. And it's funny, I was talking to a friend about this the other day. Actually, a couple of friends over dinner, and about how there's bits in movies that never make any sense. And it's oftentimes a shower scene because it's not adding anything to the film. Now, we don't see anything, but it's still, right? Shamil still has to be partly naked, right? Depending on how they shot that film. So it's still a weird scene to shoot and a weird thing to ask an actress, right? On a set with, all people around. Even if you have an intimacy coordinator, it's an odd thing that is not needed, right? There's even a scene where one girl kind of goes topless, and again, not really needed for that scene, right? You could have done the same thing without that. And it feels like a disservice to what this could have been, right? Because you're not building the characters, you're not doing this, but you showed breasts. Congratulations. You know what I mean? Might just be me, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the breasts that get shown. It's just why? Why? You know what I mean? Does it elevate the story? You know what I mean? What are we adding here? I don't know, right? I don't know. So that is the thing. Like the ending of the film, it's not necessarily a shock, right? It's not necessarily a shock after everything that has transpired. But you do kind of go, how does this give you a great cover, right? How does this elevate what you're trying to do, right? Your career and everything. It's just, it doesn't necessarily make a whole heap of sense, but I don't know. Again, it's not really established, right? So I think there is promise in here, but it's just not fully fleshed out or conceived, But I think those that like a kind of B movie type horror kind of situation, they might dig it, right? It's short, so it's easy to dip into and have a look. It's on Prime, right? So Dinner to Die For, right? If that sounds like it could be your type of film, it's out right now.